over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
This is the condition right now, and we are living like insects here.
Student is a tool of commercialism.
Now that the people who already migrated in 47, they are also giving the PGs their residential properties on rent, which is illegal.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
This week on the West Asia Post, specter of a wider regional war grows as Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh killed in Tehran. Iran says it won't let Haniyeh's blood go to waste.
امروز شهید اسماعیل هنیه و همراه میزنیم هیهات من الذله
المسجين قدامنا.
While in Lebanon, Israeli strike kills Hezbollah's top commander. Both Hamas and Hezbollah vow revenge on Israel. Netanyahu says IDF is ready for any aggression. Also on the show, Israeli soldiers accused of torturing Palestinian prisoners. Amid deepening West Asia crises, U.S. conducts strike on Iraq. Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, only on WION. World is One.
Good morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA with me, Raisha Saigal. And on the show today, West Asia continues to be on the boil. Hezbollah has fired barrage of rockets from Lebanon into Israel amid fears of an Iranian reprisal after the deaths of Hamas and Hezbollah leaders. Questions are now being raised as to what will be the nature of the Iranian retaliation and if the war in West Asia has now entered a new phase. We will be tracking all of that on World DNA, but first a quick check on the headlines. Israel and Hezbollah Hezbollah exchanged rocket fire in the wee hours of Sunday. Hezbollah says it has fired Katyusha rockets from Lebanon, which was intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome defense system. IDF strikes Hezbollah military infrastructure in North Lebanon. Fears of an Iranian reprisal against Israel over assassinations of Ismail Haniyeh and Fuad Shukra peak. Iran says it expects Hezbollah to hit deeper inside Israel. Countries issue advisories for their citizens and suspend flights to the region. Deepening divide between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Joe Biden over the hostage deal and Gaza ceasefire. Reports of some strong words exchanged between the two during the phone call. Tension spread in the UK post the Sutherland riot. Far-right rallies and counter-demonstrations across several cities with clashes between police and anti-immigration demonstrators. Prime Minister Starmer assures full support to police to crack down on the extremist elements. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Mercado defies government calls for her arrest. Addresses rally in capital. Mercado accused President Maduro of defrauding opposition contestant Edmundo Gonzalez. Flash floods in southwest Saudi Arabia. One person killed after a bridge in Jazan province swept away. India's Nishant Dev falls short of an Olympic medal as his campaign ends in the quarterfinals of the men's 71 kg boxing competition. The debutant at the Paris Games loses to Mexico's second-seeded Marco Verde by a 1-4 split decision. West Asia is on the edge. Continued cross-border fire between Israel and Hezbollah has now raised fears of a major escalation in the region. In the latest, Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system went into action in the wee hours of Sunday, intercepting a barrage of rockets fired by Hezbollah. A wave of rockets was fired near the border about 25 minutes after midnight. According to Israeli media, dozens of rockets had been fired from Lebanon into Israel. Hezbollah has said it launched dozens of Katyusha rockets at Beit Hillel in northern Israel. The Iran-backed group has claimed that its latest attack was in response to Israel's attacks on Kfar Kila and Deir Sarien in Lebanon. Hezbollah says the Israeli attack injured civilians there, but IDF says it struck Hezbollah terror targets in Kfar Kila, including terrorist infrastructure and military structures. The military has also claimed that earlier in the day, an Israeli aircraft eliminated a Hezbollah terrorist in Deir Sarien. Now, this comes after Iran said that it expects the Hezbollah group to strike deep inside the Israeli territory and not limit its attacks just to military targets. Iran is expecting the Lebanese group to increase its intensity of attacks on Israel. And all this after the assassinations of Hezbollah military commander Fuad Shukra and Hamas's chief Ismail Haniyeh. Israel's military says it is on a high alert against the anticipated response. Meanwhile, the US, UK are urging their citizens in Lebanon to leave the country on any ticket available amid fears of an all-out war between Israel and Hezbollah and also a broader regional conflict in the region. The US has told its citizens that despite flight suspensions and cancellations, commercial transportation options to leave Lebanon remain available. Jordan's foreign ministry has also issued advisory to its citizens, telling those in Lebanon to leave immediately and warning others not to travel there. Canada has also warned its nationals to avoid traveling to both Israel and Lebanon, saying that the situation can worsen any moment without any kind of warning. In the wake of the widely anticipated military response by Iran-backed forces and its proxies, several countries have suspended their civilian flight operations to Israel and Lebanon. German airline Lufthansa suspended flights to Beirut and Tel Aviv until August 8th and 12th. The United Airlines, the US Delta Airlines, the British Airways and the Swiss International Airlines, they have all suspended flights to Israel for at least a week. For more on this, we are now being joined by Colonel David B. Des Roches. He is a professor at Near East South Asia Center for Strategic Studies, National Defense University, and he's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Welcome to World DNA, Colonel Roches. Now, Iran has warned that Hezbollah will strike civilian targets in Israel, and in the latest, Hezbollah has already launched dozens of rockets at Israel's Beit Hillel, which is situated in northern Israel. So clearly, Hezbollah is not sticking to its military targets. Do you think that the war right now has entered a new phase with a Hezbollah versus IDF face-off imminent?
Well, I think that the kind of rockets that Hezbollah is launching is towards the less capable end of their inventory and are rather easily intercepted by Iron Dome. They might be just trying to deplete Israel's interceptor inventory. But right now, this is not a significant escalation from what we've seen since October 7th. There's been frequent cross-border attacks, and the Hezbollah has not exclusively targeted military infrastructure. They have almost from day one. Whether it's deliberate or not, it's hard to tell because a lot of their rockets are pretty inaccurate, but they have targeted civilian targets before, most notably, of course, the soccer field at Beit Shams, which killed 12 Druze. So I think this is well within the common pattern of exchanges between Israel and Hezbollah.
Right, Colonel Roches, you speak of how this is a common pattern of fire exchanges between Israel and Hezbollah. But Israel at this point of time is fighting at two fronts, one with Hamas and one with Hezbollah. Do you think that, how do you rather assess Israel's preparedness while it is fighting on two fronts?
Yeah, well, they actually have to fight on more than that. They have to be prepared, and they're actively watching also for missiles coming from the Houthis in Yemen, from the various pro-Iranian militias in Iraq, and from Iran itself. So there are multiple fronts from multiple directions. I think that what they're doing is they have a pretty good integrated air defense network. They, I think, are capable of determining what threats are coming in and then dealing with different threats in parallel. So the kind of Katyusha rockets that are being fired from Hezbollah are a pretty commonplace and relatively easily intercepted assets for Iron Dome, which is based at low-level rockets and unguided missiles such as this. I think that they have other elements of their forces that are on alert for ballistic missiles, long-range ballistic missiles, such as the Iranian missiles the Houthis have fired, such as Iran had fired on April 13th. But again, that's not Iron Dome. That's a different system. And then I think that they also have forces on the lookout for drones that could come from whatever direction. It's challenging, and it will stress your system. And, you can see human error take place, as you saw when the Houthi drone hit Tel Aviv. But overall, it still seems to be relatively efficient.
Colonel Roches, back in April, Hezbollah took part in retaliation strikes against Israel with Iran, with Hezbollah already launching strikes at Israel rather. Do you think that Hezbollah will be a part of the simultaneous retaliatory attacks with Iran and its proxies, or it will rather chalk out its own separate attack?
Oh, no. Hezbollah is a creature of Iran, and when Iran whistles, Hezbollah jumps. But what's important to note here is that ultimately Hezbollah's main route and their more sophisticated long-range and precise guided missiles are reserved as Iran's retaliatory capability should Israel strike Iran's nuclear program. So that will remain in reserve. The other lower-end rockets and missiles, I think they will fire because all of the elements of the axis of resistance have to show their utility to Iran. There is a possibility of a Trump presidency, which will lead to the reimposition of maximum pressure. Iran will have less money to deal out to its proxies and to its agents throughout the Arab world. And I think that all of these proxies want to show their worth to their Iranian overlords, but also to the people who are saying, why are we putting up with all of this? So I think it's inconceivable that any element of the so-called axis of resistance will sit out a major confrontation with Israel.
Right. I also want to seek your assessment on the United States of America's stance. Again, back in April, the U.S. had said that it will not take part in any Israeli retaliatory action against Iran. And now in the latest, we are seeing America deploying ships and fighter jets in Israel's defense. So in your opinion, how do you assess America's stance on any Iranian attack against Israel this time around?
Well, the United States is committed to preserving the survival of Israel. And I think that the policy stands. I don't think that these assets would be involved in a retaliatory strike against Iran unless Iran targets missiles, say, at an American ship. I think that rather they are there to provide defensive capability, as they did on April 13th, should Iran launch a major strike from Iran into Israel. There might be some American involvement against some of the proxy elements, most notably the pro-Iranian militias in Iraq. But I think that the assets the United States has would be ill-suited, and the placement of them would be ill-suited for intercepting any Hezbollah rockets. I think that will be handled by the Israelis.
Right, Colonel Roches, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA with your insights.
Thank you.
Well, Israeli demonstrators continue to demand the government to reach a deal to release all hostages held in Gaza. Hundreds of Israeli demonstrators gathered in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and faced off with the police there. As they waved the Israeli flag and chanted, the families of the hostages called on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to step down if he does not finalize a deal. They criticized the government's handling of the war, including the war with Hamas in Gaza and the increasing tension with Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Today is the 302nd day in which our loved ones are held captive in the hell that is in Gaza. It has been 302 days since we were able to hug our loved ones. What we have been screaming for months is now clear. There is a hostage release deal on the table, and Netanyahu is deliberately conducting a targeted attack against it. We chose to escalate the situation instead of securing a deal which would save lives and prevent dangerous escalations. Netanyahu is a cruel, heartless man who has forsaken the hostages.
A high-level Israeli delegation made a brief visit to Cairo on Saturday in an attempt to resume Gaza's ceasefire negotiations. According to Israeli media, the officials returned to Israel hours later. Israel security chiefs have urged Netanyahu to utilize the momentum provided by the strikes on terror chiefs to seize the opportunity for a hostage ceasefire deal. This was at a top-level security meeting this week. According to reports, the Prime Minister slapped them down and told them that they were lousy negotiators. Some of the security chiefs, in fact, feel that Netanyahu has given up on the hostages and that they are said to be fired by the Israeli government. As per reports, the firing of Defense Minister Yoav Gallant is not a matter of if, but rather a matter of when. Those talks have been ongoing for many months without results, and world leaders, including US President Joe Biden, have opined that Netanyahu has been intentionally stalling for internal political reasons. According to media reports, during their phone conversation on Thursday, Biden realized that Netanyahu lied to him about the deal and used strong words against the Israeli Prime Minister. Reports also say that the outburst came after Netanyahu told Biden that Israel was moving forward with negotiations with Hamas and would soon send a delegation to resume talks. During the conversation, Biden also reportedly said, "Don't take the president for granted." In other global news, unrest linked to a mass stabbing incident in Southport has spread across the United Kingdom. Riots involving hundreds of far-right anti-immigration demonstrators erupted in several towns and cities and also descended into violence, arson and looting. All this despite the police clearing that the accused in the July 29th knife attack, Axel Rudar-Kubino, was born in Britain. False information has been doing the rounds on social media that the 17-year-old is a radical Muslim and has been the trigger for violence. In Liverpool, Bristol, 4 cities located in different corners of the UK, scuffles broke out between anti-immigration groups and groups opposed to racism. They pelted bricks and stones and bottles. Many police officials suffered injuries as they tried to keep the rival demonstrators from clashing. Given the situation, security has been beefed up across Britain. Mosques in particular have been advised to strengthen security following an attack on the religious place in Southport. Dozens of individuals have been arrested for offences as well, including violent disorder and criminal damage. Meanwhile, facing his first big test since his election, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer condemned the far-right wave of violence and he backed the police to take strong action. This after his meeting with senior ministers on the disorder earlier in the day. And now shifting our focus to the US, it's exactly 3 months to the US presidential elections. And latest point of contention between Donald Trump and presumptive Democrat contestant Kamala Harris is the date for the presidential debate. Trump has pulled out of a face-off with Harris that was slated to take place on ABC News Network and instead asked for a debate on Fox News on the 4th of September. In a post on social media, Trump said his agreement to a September 10th debate on the channel has been terminated because he will no longer face Biden, who ended his campaign last month. Meanwhile, to Harris, who is all set to be Biden's replacement, Trump has proposed a face-off with her on Fox News at an earlier date, that is on September 4th instead of September 10th. Harris, however, has rejected the proposal. She mocked Trump, highlighting his anytime, anyplace answer to the debate earlier and asserted that she would be there on September 10th on ABC as agreed by both the parties and hoped to see Trump there as well, which at this point of time is unlikely. Given the Republican nominee's past records, he has skipped debates before, including all the 2024 Republican presidential primary debates in the past. Democrats are using this to their benefit. In the newest Afraid to Debate ad campaign, Team Harris has taunted Trump for not committing to a face-off. Meanwhile, the 538 poll of polls shows Harris leading if the margin of error is taken out. Harris has support of 45% of the voters. Trump trails 1.5 points at 43.5%. However, given the margin of error of 1.5%, which is equal to Harris's lead over Trump, the website has declared that it is going to be a neck-and-neck fight between the two contestants on November 5th. And now to the world of business. Apple reported a record revenue of $85.8 billion for quarter 3 2024, and this is a 5% increase from the previous year. The revenue boost came from over 24 countries, including India. Apple CEO Tim Cook highlighted new records in countries such as Canada and Germany as well. Well, Mac sales saw a 2% increase year over year, driven by the new M3-powered MacBook Air. The company set revenue records for Macs in Latin America, India and South Asia. In contrast, iPhone sales totaled $39.3 billion, a slight decrease of 0.94%. This drop was anticipated due to the upcoming iPhone 16 launch. iPad sales also surged by 23.6% to $7.16 billion, marking a turnaround from the previous quarter. Mac sales reached $7.01 billion, up by 2.46%. The increases in Mac and iPad sales are major as they followed previous declines. Overall, Apple's strong performance in emerging markets contributed to the revenue growth. Despite a drop in iPhone sales, the success of other products and expanding markets led to a successful quarter for Apple. The company anticipates continued growth with upcoming goods releases and innovations for the next quarter as well. Well, investors will be watching for the launch of the iPhone 16 and further goods. American gymnastics star Simone Biles has won a third gold medal of the Paris Games by taking the women's vault title in emphatic fashion. The 27-year-old now has 7 Olympic gold medals. Biles had led the US to gold in the women's team event and then took the all-around title in Paris. Biles, who is regarded by many as the greatest gymnast of all time, entered the vault final as the favorite and lived up to that billing. Biles began with his signature Yurchenko double pike and then also nailed her Cheng vault to score 15.300. Brazilian Rebeca Andrade, who won the gold at the Tokyo Games, took the silver medal, while Biles' compatriot Jade Carey got bronze. Biles has now reclaimed another of the titles she first won at Rio 2016 to take her overall Olympic tally to 10 medals. The 27-year-old, in fact, could finish the Paris Games with 2 more gold medals. She will compete in the balance beam and flow exercise finals on Monday. And with that, we call it a wrap. Thanks very much for staying with us. You're watching WION World is One. Do stay tuned.
Massive turning point in the West Asia conflict. Israel opens Iran war front. Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh killed in Tehran, a targeted attack during a visit to Iran for the new president's inauguration. Nearly 2,000 kilometers away in Beirut, Israel kills a top Hezbollah commander in a targeted strike. West Asia on the boil. War clouds darken and the threat of a wider conflict grows bigger than ever.
WION India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
The quest for an Olympic medal has begun. History is being made at the Paris Olympics.
Manu Bhaker has created history here in Chateau.
And the history makers are speaking exclusively to WION.
I'm living my dream, and it's not like it's going to end here.
The best in the world have descended upon Paris, defying gravity and setting new benchmarks. And we are there to cover it all.
The Olympic Games are the pinnacle of sport, and they demand sacrifices from both sportspersons and those covering it. I'm Digvijay Singhdeo, and I will be tracking the best in sport from here in Paris.
Can Team India reach a double-digit medal tally?
The Olympics is a sweet bread, but it comes with pressure, for sure.
Watch Gunning for Glory through the Paris Olympics at these times on WION.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Violent crime rate in South Africa shoots up, igniting fear and concerns among the major cities of the country, even as authorities uncovered illegal military-style training camps with 95 Libyans in Mpumalanga. The Democratic Republic of Congo releases 420 prisoners from its largest and most overcrowded prison after images of dire conditions posted to social media by a recently freed journalist sparked widespread outcry. And Cape Town talent shines in graphic reboot of classic opera Wild of Africa at these times on WION.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Hello, good morning. You're watching WION World is One. I'm Crispino Nunes, and here are the top headlines at this hour. Israel and Hezbollah exchanged rocket fire in the wee hours of Sunday. Hezbollah says it has fired Katyusha rockets from Lebanon, intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome defense system.